All right, ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? David G here, Fladoodler18. Just went live with everything. It's my first time putting this all together, so if there's any issues, give me a heads up, and I'll take a look at them. I'm gonna wait for one or two people to just kind of trickle in before I start going over some stuff. But just to get started and kind of give some context to what's going on here, I'm going live just to talk about some of the preseason things we might see tomorrow against Colorado. We'll do a little bit of a look back as well against the match against FC Cincinnati. I know I was live tweeting that, and then I put out some information on Reddit and a couple other sources. So we'll talk about all of that. If you have any questions, any comments, anything that you want to ask me before the preseason match tomorrow, go ahead and give me a shout. I can see your comments, so I should be able to take a look at that when the stuff comes up. Also, more than anything, I just want to give you guys a heads up and remind you that tomorrow, the preseason match, of course, for season ticket members, that game will kick off at 7 p.m. It is expected to be like a true match, so you should, same format that you would see any other Orlando City game, 90 minutes, 45-minute halves, the whole 9 yards. So before we jump into Colorado, let's talk a little bit of FC Cincinnati before we get there, because I think it's important for us to kind of touch on that. So remember, the boys played FC Cincinnati. Now would have been 2 days ago. Yeah, 2 days ago at this point. So they played FC Cincinnati over in Tampa. A lot of interesting things came out. Unfortunately, not from our side. A lot of them came out from the FC Cincinnati side. So we went ahead and kind of started off slow against that team, went down 1-0 pretty early in the match, but fortunately things did turn around for us as the game went on. Unfortunately, that first goal against us was kind of a bad back pass between our center backs. Unfortunately, our new guy Iago was involved in that. There was a video out there on the FC Cincinnati side that kind of showed that, so kind of a tough look for him. But again, as he continues to bed in with the rest of the team, those issues are going to work themselves out, so I wouldn't worry about it all too much, to be honest with you. After that, though, we kind of took it to him. We got a little tough. A lot of yellow cards collected for us in the first half, but as soon as the second half started for us, we really started to settle into the game. Really, all 3 goals, if you didn't know about that match, all 3 goals came from mistakes by FC Cincinnati. So, I don't want to say they were gifted to us, but for us to really take care of our chances was really important, and it looks like we did that in this match. So, really awesome stuff on that front. I'm sure you guys have seen the graphic already, but Martino Hayda ended up bagging a brace in that match, so awesome job for Martino Hayda. One of his goals was set up by Thiago, which Thiago in himself also got a goal. So just a really awesome showing by the boys to kind of fight back. And then at the very end, unfortunately, they dropped a goal, but this was late. OCB guys were on, academy guys were on. The team wasn't as deep, I think, as the squad was expecting. So unfortunately, they gave one up at the end, but they still come out victorious 3-2. So that's the FC Cincinnati game earlier in the week. So we covered that. The goal of that game, from what was told to me by various sources, was to get the guys fit, get them as close to 90 minutes as they possibly could. From what I understand, they ramped a lot of them up to about 60-ish minutes. Some guys played a little bit shorter, some guys played a little bit longer, but it was about 60 minutes for that to happen. The one thing I can say from a couple of sources, Duncan McGuire only played about a half. He didn't play more than that. Thiago did come in for him and play striker for basically most of the rest of the second half. So Thiago, pretty good showing there. That's a goal and another assist to add to his pretty good preseason schedule. Jonksku, I see your comment about defense. We'll get there in a second. I think my lineup for the preseason match will kind of lend itself to what that looks like. All right, so let's move forward. Let's move to tomorrow. We take on Colorado, of course, 7 p.m., Inter & Co., the whole 9 yards. I don't believe there'll be a stream because it is a season ticket match. However, myself, I'll be there. I know John Rollins, my partner over at LPO, will be there as well, as I'm sure as a lot of other people in the space will be there to kind of watch it. I'll try to put some stuff out if I can remember to, videos, pictures, all that kind of stuff. At the very least, I'll try to keep people sort of informed of goals and all those kind of things. So, lineup. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what it looks like. For those of you that have been watching LPO for the last couple weeks, this shouldn't be a surprise to you when I talk about the lineup. So, it might be interesting to kind of look at that and kind of see what that looks like. So let's talk about lineup. So we've been talking about a lot in the last couple weeks, excuse me, about sort of what the back line would look like, because we're a little broken back there. Depth isn't super heavy. Based on from what I've heard and from what I've understood, this is sort of the lineup that we should expect to have going into at least the preseason game tomorrow. So let's talk this through a little bit, because this might look a little bit off or confusing for some people. We'll start back to front, and then we'll kind of break it down line by line after we go over that. So in goal, we expect Crepeau to be back. If you guys didn't hear, he did suffer a potential concussion protocol. He was in it for a little bit, but he is back now. He's been training the last couple of days, so we fully expect to see him back in the sticks. Otero did play the entire game against FC Cincinnati, so if they wanted to or needed to, Otero could come in and play. I don't think it would be a problem. They've been sort of neck and neck for a lot of the preseason, just because I think Otero has that familiarity that Crepeau doesn't, but obviously Crepeau has that level of class, national team experience, all that kind of stuff. Okay, moving up a line. I know this is going to bother some people by me bringing up this name, but Ivan Angulo, based on what I have heard, will be your starting right back tomorrow, and it is fully expected, as long as he plays decently tomorrow and is healthy going into week one, he will be your week one starting right back. And I know there's some fans out there that maybe aren't a big fan of that, and I totally understand that, but unfortunately, I think that's kind of the situation that we're in, because obviously at this point, we will not bring in a right back, I think, between now and the season, and even if we did, they're not going to bet in. So when that happens, from what I've been told, because a lot of people are assuming Ivan Angulo is going to sort of just bomb up and down the field, very similar to Alex Freeman, maybe not cut in as much. From what I've been told in training, he's been practicing both ways. So that way, he has been practicing sort of staying wide, hugging the touchline, coming back when he needs to come back. Because, guys, don't forget, Marco Pasalic is going to naturally cut in on his left foot. So it's going to vacate the space that's on that right channel, right? He's been playing in that direction, and that's been fine. I've also heard, though, as the team goes forward, he's been tucking in and sort of centrally into the field. Not up the field and centrally, but more centrally, which I think is really interesting because I don't think he's a great 1v1 defender in terms of duels and things like that. So a little taken aback by that approach. I guess we'll have to see it in practice. I'm not sure what that's going to look like, but tomorrow might be a good way for us to see that. So Ivan Angulo, starting right back for tomorrow, from what I hear, most likely will be your starting right back for the start of the season. Shout out to Landon. I'm sure he will love that I'm going to share that information to him. Moving across the line, Brecalo, he's been solid all season. He's your CB1 right now. Obviously, he's going to slide in there. Most likely will play the right-hand side. He's a little bit more comfortable on that side of the formation. And then moving one more in, it was kind of a competition between Iago and Nolan Miller, obviously because Miller's been with us for the entirety of camp. Iago just coming in as of recently, so it apparently wasn't too difficult of a decision for the coaching staff. It does sound like Iago will be your starting left center back for tomorrow, and then, of course, just like Ivan Angulo, as long as everything goes well and he stays healthy, he should be your starting left center back on opening day. So expect the pairing of Iago and Brecalo to get you into the season. Again, Nolan Miller, a very solid, serviceable depth piece. If he needs to step in and do that, I'm sure he's more than able to do that. I just think the team is more comfortable with what Iago can, of course, provide. And then left back, again, another name that people might not be thrilled about, but this is kind of the hand that you're dealt. Adrian Marin will start at left back for you. However, I do want to say that based on some reports that have come out of camp, Tahir Reed-Brown has had a good camp, a good to very good camp. So we don't want to take anything away from him. We don't think he's done enough to necessarily talk himself into the starting conversation, but he has had a good camp, so we want to give him credit for that. I hope to see him, get some minutes tomorrow and kind of see what he looks like, preferably with some of the first team guys, but we'll see how that goes. All right, moving up a line, let's talk about midfielders. We'll start with our defensive midfielders first. Cartagena is going to be your solid 6. He comes back in. He's had a great preseason so far. I know Poppy said it week 1, but we've heard other people say it throughout the process. He has been the most fit, the most energetic. He has been sort of his old self and then some. So really expect, of course, Wilder Cartagena to hold down the 6th position. And then it looks like Atuesta, for the time being, has beat out Brian Ojeda to take that other spot. Now, here's the trick, and we've talked about this on Loud and Proud. I've talked about this in other articles that I posted on the website. For Atuesta to be successful, he cannot be stuck in a double pivot where they're both 6s. I wholeheartedly believe that. I hope Poppy has not been training that this offseason. Who knows, though, because we're talking about Poppy here. I think the true way to get Atuesta into the best spots and the best way on the field is that they allow him to be more of a box-to-box. Let's hope that happens. Tomorrow will be a good showing for us to see if that happens, but who knows with all of that. In the midfield tomorrow, I would not expect Luis Otavio. He's been training off to the side for the last couple of weeks. Remember, he missed the first week and a half due to visa issues, and then when he came in, he's still been working through that thigh knock that he had right as he left Internacional. It is not serious. They were just slow playing him back into fitness and into the main squad, but he hasn't really been doing a ton of first-team training, so I would not expect to see him tomorrow. If you do, it would be like a couple minutes or less. I really don't think it's going to be much more than that. I have been told, though, he will return to full training next week on Monday. So that's great news. Obviously, he can train with the team, but because of that, you might see more Brian Ojeda, Colin Gusky, folks like that. So just expect that to happen. All right, let's move up another line. Tincho's going to take your number 10 spot. Obviously, the MVP of the team last season. He's not going anywhere. He should be starting tomorrow, and of course, he'll be your opening day 10. Paslich on the right, nothing changes there. For left winger, I've heard that Spicer has won the competition at left wing. So obviously, that's why you see Ivan Angulo at right back. So it makes a lot of sense there, right? So Tyrese Spicer should be your starting left wing. I'm sure a lot of fans will be thrilled about that. Daniel, I see your comment about Sukata. He's had a good preseason. I know in the beginning they were slow playing like him back up to fitness, which makes sense because he hasn't had a lot of game time. He did have an opportunity to get in 1 or 2 scrimmages this preseason so far. I would love to see him tomorrow. So we'll see what that looks like. But I know they've been slow playing him a little bit, but he has looked pretty good in the clips, of course, that the club has put out. He's looked pretty solid as well. So I kind of love what's happening there. But we'll see what happens with Sukata. I'd love to see more opportunity for him. I'd also like to see if he's versatile enough to play the right-hand side as well. Because I think on the left wing, we're a little stacked at the moment, unless they park Angulo at right back for the entirety of the season, which let's all hope that it gets to that point, but we'll see what that looks like. All right, so the question becomes up top. I've got Maguire/Thiago, and some fans might be confused about that. They're going into this thinking, wait a minute, Duncan Maguire's the guy. What are we doing with Duncan Maguire? So here's the deal with Duncan Maguire. He's had a good preseason. Nothing to take away from Duncan. He's still getting health. He's 100% now compared to where he was last season and fighting all the things that he had. But he hasn't been lighting up the score charts at all. He had that PK goal against Lexington. That was all grand and everything. But since then, there hasn't been a huge impact from him. He's been doing a lot of running, a lot of pressing and things like that, but not a lot of goal contributions on his card for the preseason. Again, when we talk about the preseason, we don't talk about wins. We don't talk about necessarily, the number of goals. Really what we're talking about is who's gelling, who is putting the ball in the net, who's setting people up, things like that, right? And unfortunately, Duncan Maguire hasn't had a lot of those opportunities so far this preseason. So there's still some challenge there. The reason I throw Thiago up there is for 2 reasons. Number one, if you guys don't know, Thiago has been playing a lot of striker this preseason for Poppy. I don't love him there. I don't think it's his best position. When he played striker for Bahia, he was a second striker. He wasn't the solo guy. And the one game that he was the solo guy, sure, he went and scored a hat trick, and I'm sure that everyone's going to look at me and be like, haha, joke's on you. Right, but let's take a big, pause here. He's better with somebody else next to him. And obviously this team doesn't play with 2 up top, so that doesn't give him the opportunity. However, during preseason, Poppy has almost religiously played him at striker. Basically, when Duncan's not on, Thiago has been. So Thiago so far on the season has preseason has at least 2 assists. I believe he's up to 3 goals now. So I think he's 3-2 now, if I'm not mistaken. He has been shredding defenses the entire preseason. Against Cincinnati, he was very lively. Of course, he got a goal and he got an assist, and he was causing havoc to their back line, from what I understand. To me, that sounds like a Poppy guy, right? Poppy is going to want a guy who can go out there, press, put the ball in the back of the net, all those kind of things. So I put Thiago there because personally, I think Thiago could very well get the start tomorrow against the Rapids. I think this game against the Rapids tomorrow could be one of the few positions on the field where you see two players duke it out to see who will get that spot on opening day. I think it will default to Duncan if Duncan has a decent game tomorrow. But if he doesn't, if he's not able to put something on the score sheet or he's not able to provide goal contributions, don't be surprised if Thiago goes in there and takes the spot. Now remember, Thiago's a different type of striker. He's not like Duncan where he's going to roam the box and poach and things like that. He will at times, definitely, no doubt about that. But Thiago is very much a get in behind kind of striker, right? A mobile striker, as some people would define it. So don't be surprised if you see him come on and he plays differently to how you would expect Duncan McGuire to play, or even Luis Muriel. Sorry, I know I said the bad man's name, but Luis Muriel did last season. He's going to play differently there. So don't be surprised if that happens. Now, that's the starting 11. That's who I think we're going to see tomorrow. I think it's a pretty solid starting 11. I've got questions about Ivan Angulo. I'm curious to see what his defending looks like, especially what his 1v1 defending looks like. So that'll be really interesting to see how that works. I think everybody that's sort of watching this or that's out there in the Orlando City fandom is wondering, is Adrian Marine up for it? We did not see it last season, and he's got to be able to show not only the coaching staff but the fan base that he can settle in. He started off really well, then he dropped a little bit, he went back up, and he dropped a little bit. So I heard he's been kind of all over the shop in the preseason. Let's hope he's more on the up than he is on the down, but we'll see what that looks like. I'm most excited for Iago to step in on the starting lineup and see what he's got. Obviously, I've done a lot of studying and a lot of research on him. If you go to loudandproudorlando.com, I've got a huge article that breaks him down with all of those kind of things. His aerial presence is dominating. He's good with the ball at his feet. He tends to play well with his partners. The only thing I don't think is there yet, and I think you're going to see a little bit of this tomorrow, is his partnership with Brekalo, right? They still are building that partnership. It takes center backs a while to really strengthen what that looks like. So we'll see what that kind of partnership looks like already and how it looks like going forward. I have no concerns about the midfield as long as Wilder Cartagena is fit. We should be good to go there. I know Atuesta fell off at the end of last season, but if you guys do remember and kind of cast your minds back a little bit, Atuesta did start well last season. So if he can start well again this season, I don't think fans should have a lot of concern there. So we'll see what he looks like there. I love to see that Spicer is probably going to get the run out here. We'll see what he's got with that bag. And then, of course, I talked about the striker conversation already. So let's move past that a little bit, right? So when I did put an article up on Loud and Proud Orlando talking about what I would like to see out of the preseason game. The first one was the formation, so we just had this conversation about this one. Don't be surprised as well if later in the game we might try a back three. I think it's unlikely that we try it tomorrow because we're really trying to hone in for the first game of the season. However, the team has been actively trying a back three. We talked about that on Loud and Proud last week. So the back three was really Iago, Brekalo, and either Marin or Nolan Miller being that third spot. And then you're putting, Cartagena, pardon me. It would be Cartagena, Brekalo, and Iago as that back three. You would find Atuesta and Brian Ojeda in the midfield pairing. Angulo, of course, would be your right midfielder / wingback. Tyrese Spicer, same thing on the other side. And then up front, you would have Martin Ojeda at your left wing spot. You'd have Duncan McGuire or Thiago at your striker spot. And then, of course, Marco Pasalic at your right winger spot. Again, I don't think you're going to see that tomorrow just because they really want a solid, lineup going into week one. But don't be surprised if they try to run something like that out. They have been practicing it a ton in preseason. So I would not be surprised if something like that happens. The second part that I kind of want to touch on and really talk about is the young guys. I want to see as many of the young guys get as much time as they can tomorrow after the coaching staff is satisfied with the fitness of these main guys. Remember, the whole goal going into this is to build up fitness. Against Cincy, 60 minutes this week. I think they're probably going to be pitching the same thing, 60, 65 minutes. If they can get lucky, get 70 minutes out of it. So they're really going to try to push for something like that. So they're probably going to get most of the time. But I would love to see players like, if Thiago doesn't start, to see Thiago come on. I'd love to see players like Sukata, Harvey if he's fit, because remember, he's been dealing with some back issues. Taifi, we haven't seen in some of the photos and some of the stuff. I don't know for sure if he's injured or not, but we'll see if he's available. If he is, I'd love to see Taifi as well. Any of the young guys that we really just haven't got an opportunity to see a ton of. Colin Gusky, Caraballo, all these kind of guys. I'd love to see them get some meaningful minutes at the end of this scrimmage and kind of see what they can provide for us. I still obviously believe, like most people, they will end up with OCB for a majority of the year, probably not see a ton of minutes. The exception to that would probably be like Tiago and Otavio and things like that. They probably stay up with the team. Obviously, Iago, I expect to be up with the team the entirety of the season. He's needed now, and he's supposed to be the guy for us. So, but it's great to see kind of what depth and what's kind of behind them and what that looks like. And then, of course, would love to see when Brian Ojeda gets on, what he's got to offer. This will be our first time seeing him in purple or white. I'm not sure what kit they're wearing tomorrow. I don't think they'll wear the new away kit yet, but I'm curious to see what he provides as wear. I'd love to see Otero get some minutes if he doesn't start. Like, whichever goalkeeper doesn't start, I'd love to see the other one come in and kind of see what they have to offer, because I still think there's a little bit of a competition there. So I'd love to see what that looks like and how they duke it out. So it'd be really interesting to kind of see how that plays out. But really just like, let's see the young guys, right? The guys we don't normally see, the guys that we haven't seen for a while. I think it'd be good for us. Obviously, Nolan Miller, I'd love for him to get some minutes just to kind of reward him for the preseason that he's had so far. I think it'd be a really nice addition for us to kind of see those things. So that's kind of my thoughts about what preseason looks like tomorrow. I also, if you guys haven't heard, there's apparently some new food offerings that are in the stadium. I don't know. I don't think that much of the stadium will be open, obviously, because they're trying to keep everybody on the east side. So you'll see everyone flood onto the east side. But there are some new food offerings, from what I understand, this season that were added to the stadium. So that's fun. The field got relayed, so we'll see how the field looks. It looked good in the photos and videos that the club posted today. So that's kind of cool. So we'll be curious to see what that looks like. The fans should have been installed in the concourse, so that should be fun as well. You'll be able to see a sneak peek of the bougie seats that they just added over there. So I'm sure the terrace and all the other ones that they have added this offseason, you'll get an opportunity to kind of check those out and look at those and everything. And then, of course, buy as much merch as you want with the new line, the new Sunken Treasure kit and all this stuff that comes with it. So it should be a really exciting kind of way to look at it. That's kind of most of my thoughts that I had. Does anyone have any questions or comments about anything that's been going on in the preseason? If there's a player I didn't touch on or somebody that you wanted to know about, or anything tactically that I might be able to shed some insight on, I'm more than happy to kind of cover it with you guys if you have anything. Really, like I said, just ran through a lot of stuff. If you missed the first part, I did catch you up a little bit on the Cincinnati game a little bit earlier in the week. You can find a recap of that on actually the subreddit on r/OC Lions, if you haven't checked out the subreddit. So that's on there for you if you want to check that out. And then, of course, we talked about sort of what the starting lineup can look like and things like that. So any questions from anybody? Everybody feel good about that? I'm excited to be back in the stadium, of course, more than anything else. It's been a long off season for obvious reasons, and it's been a while since we've been in Inter and Co. So I'm really excited to kind of be back in there and check it out. So that should be a lot of fun. And then, of course, like right after opening day against the New York Red Bulls, and we got a fun stretch to start the season. So it'll be really interesting to see sort of how we come out firing and how we look. So it should be real interesting on that front. While I'm waiting to see if like one or two more comments come flying in, let me just double check my notes and see if I missed anything. I don't believe so. I think that's most of it. Okay, on that note, I just want to remind everybody, let's see. Daniel says, who is the left back if Marin looks down? I think they could put Spicer there since they have the left wing down. They could. I know he hasn't been playing there really at all in the preseason, so it might take him some time. Like I said, Reed Brown has had a really positive preseason. I don't think he's up to the level of like the Freeman ascent or anything like that, right? Because I don't want to put him in that stratosphere. That was a generational type talent jump, right? And all that kind of stuff. But Reed Brown, from what I understand and what I've seen of Reed Brown, has had a very, very solid preseason so far. So I wouldn't be surprised if the club would potentially give him an opportunity to try left back if Marin is not working out or if Marin goes down. Because I think at this point, that's kind of like really your only options that you have to do that. The only person that you really have with OCB is Bernardo Rhine, for any of those OCB folks out there. And he's been good this preseason, but he seems to be sort of in that OCB class, so he'd need a little bit more time, I think, to cook to kind of be at the first team level. But I think it's probably to Reed Brown first, and then I think you start to get a little funky with the lineup and see who you can fit in and piece in when you can. So, but like I said, for tomorrow, myself, my colleague John Rollins will be there from LPO. We'll be checking it out. Unfortunately, Luis will not be with us. He's got some Valentine's Day plans, so we won't have any official coverage from the press box tomorrow, but John and I fully intend to take notes, pictures and photos if we can get any. It depends on where our seats are tomorrow, of course, because it's general admission. So we'll try to provide some of that stuff. I might even provide some of my thoughts either in a video format or in a written format of sorts, and then of course we'll cover it on Loud and Proud on Monday. But yeah, this should be really interesting. I'm really excited to get over there and kind of see what that looks like, and really just kind of be back at the stadium, have a fun time, see how this team is coming together. And let me say this before we leave. I know a lot of folks are down on this team going into the season, and I can understand that to a degree, right? The depth in some spots, non-existent. Scary thought, right? In center back right now, we have one person backing up both center backs and Nolan Miller, and that's it. There is nobody else. Right back, of course, it's Ivan Angulo. If Ivan Angulo doesn't work out, we hope Taifi is ready, but we know how Poppy can be with young players. So I don't know. We'll have to see what that looks like. Same kind of to Daniel's point, left back, who's behind Marin? We've got Tariq Reed Brown. Is he at the level yet? Okay, if he's the guy who backs him up, if Marin gets injured, let's say. So kind of scary depth there. I know the question for the last couple of years is, God forbid, knock on wood, and I'm knocking on all the wood that I have here. What if Martino Hayda goes down? Who replaces Martino Hayda? And the production that comes with that. So we're a little scary in spots. But what I want to say to everybody is, go into the game tomorrow with an understanding that you're going to see some things that may not be the sharpest, and that's fine. This is the last tune-up before the regular season game. What you should be critical of and you should be watching of is the level of play that we're getting from these players, right? So if Iago makes a weird pass to Brecalo because he thinks Brecalo's in a spot, but he's not, yeah, sure. At the moment, harp on the kid a little bit, but let's move on, right? He's still getting that partnership with David Brecalo. But if you see somebody like, if Ivan Angulo happens to get into the attack and he misses a wide open goal again, by all means, this is the same consistent stuff that we've seen season after season. By all means, kind of make the comment and think the thought and all those kind of things. But the one thing that I've said a lot on LPO, on the articles that I've written, all the research that I've done this offseason is this team has raised the floor. The question is, where's the ceiling? And I think that's what we need to see a little bit of a tidbit of tomorrow, right? Where is the ceiling for this team? Colorado is not one of the better teams in the West or even in MLS. And I think their fans would admit that to you, right? And I don't want to take anything away from them because they are building some things in Colorado. But they're not the best team right now, and they've been kind of shellacked this preseason. This should be a great opportunity for Orlando City to walk in and not only pick up a win, which again, I know wins don't matter, but pick up a win, but score goals, show chemistry, get goal contributions, show a solid defense. Because the other thing that I didn't mention earlier that I did want to talk about with you guys, and I'm glad it jogged my memory here, we have given up 3 or 4 aerial goals this preseason. That is not a good number and concerns me greatly. And that's one of the things and one of the trends that you can look at and be concerned about, right? I don't like where we're at with aerial defending, right? All of these, though, were pre-Iago. So let's hope that this one guy can help with that. But then also our set piece coach, whichever one of the coaches is taking on that responsibility, because we don't have a dedicated one, probably our defensive coach, needs to get with these guys and work on our aerial defending, right? It's been a common theme of the preseason. If we continue to see it tomorrow, that is something to note. If we continue to struggle with set pieces, especially with aerial duels, that's something that everyone should kind of have in their mind. So we'll see what that looks like, but I would be a little bit concerned depending on how that shakes out. So that's something that you can look at. But really going into this, look at the new players, get to understand them a little bit, understand how they play, how they interact with each other, how all those things work, and then really start to put in your mind, okay, what is it going to look like against Red Bulls? We'll have a ton of content, myself, LPO, all of our other great podcast partners and Lions Den, the In 90 Minutes guys, Citro over at the mainland. They're all going to have a lot of great lead up to the season content before we play Red Bulls. But for you guys and each individual fans, don't be so overly critical that if we lose 2-3, don't take that for the loss. Again, wins and losses don't matter. It's how did we score the goals, who got involved in those goals, who was doing what, all of those kind of things, right? Those are the things that you should be focused on going into tomorrow. And then look at some of the highlight players I talked about. Look at Thiago, look at Iago. If Duncan does get on the field for a decent amount, let's see if he can get into his goal-scoring form. Let's see if Ojeda and Pasalic still have the magic that we fully expect them to have. I don't think that's going to be a problem. But still, let's see if they've still got the magic. Let's see if Wilder Cartagena is back to full Wilder. We would love to have full Wildebeest. We really need him in the middle of the park after the disastrous season from Cesar Araujo. This would be great for Wildebeest to be back and kind of do his thing. I'm excited to see Brian Ojeda as well, see what he can contribute, see what he can add to this team, and see if he gives us a different look. And then see if Spicy T picks up from where he left off, right? He ended really well with us at the end of the season, and then he went into Trinidad and had a really great kind of season over there too. So really exciting stuff across the board, just really fun stuff to be excited for tomorrow. For those of you that can't go, I'm sorry. I wish all the fans could. You guys know I've been vocal about this all off season. I think it's silly that this time we really only get one kind of game that's for a bigger group of people, season ticket members. I know some folks that were part of the supporter groups got lucky to go see Lexington, and that's awesome for them. I just still wish there was more opportunity for fans. I think we all collectively can continue to bang that drum and just tell the front office, hey, the secrecy just doesn't make a ton of sense. The fans just want to see the guys, before it happens. Even if we can't go to the stadium, show us a stream, give us some live blogging like Cincinnati. I want to shout out Cincinnati and their social media guy who did the match the other day. I thought he did a great job considering all the information he was trying to get put into that blog and tweet out and all that kind of stuff. So just hats off to that dude and everything that he's doing. So I would really love to see us do more of that, but that's a different conversation for a different time. But anyway, guys, it's been a pleasure. I think for my first live, not bad at all. I really want to thank everyone that was able to ask questions. I know I see Daniel. Shout out to Daniel. Thanks so much for all your questions. Landon for putting some stuff in here as well. And then the first question from John Scoot. Thank you. I really appreciate all of you guys. I really appreciate everyone who's interacted with me in the off season so far. Obviously, I'm not going anywhere, but I just want to thank everybody for all your support and everything that's been going on this off season. It's been a really fun one. And we're getting real close, guys. And I am so excited. Tomorrow, we're a week away from opening day. So you can't hate that at all. So anyway, if you have any questions between now and then or want to talk about the match at all, I am online. You can find me, of course, at Fladoodler18. You can find me on X. I'm also on Threads yeah, those are my main two. That's really what I used most of the time. And then I'm going to start to get my YouTube channel up and running just for this kind of stuff, so that stuff can be parked on there. So really excited for all that. But again, thanks, everybody. I really appreciate it. Hope you have a great night. I'm really excited to talk about the result tomorrow. Have a good one, guys. Vamos, Orlando.